Tune in, Living for the People.
This is L. Nathan here. Join me right here, 91.3 FM WBNY. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 9 a.m. after Amy Goodman's Democracy Now! We'll provide objective analysis regarding current issues. Call 878-5104. It's Living for the People on 91.3 FM WBNY. All right, here we go. Living for the People. This is L. Nathan here, your host here for this next hour. Excuse me. Joining our broadcast, focus on providing insight into events shaping our national and regional world and the facts behind those events and policies that are shaping our world for today and for tomorrow. Join us weekly on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. following Amy Goodman's Democracy Now! Program. And of course, you know our program is live, so you can call and you can join our discussion. We really hope that you will. Our number here again is 716-878-5104. That's 716-878-5104. Now, we're normally here with Norm MacArthur, who does the live streaming, or excuse me, is our in-studio audience of one, but I don't see him.
He's coming in.
I see his coffee. His coffee showed up.
Yeah, his coffee and
his vittles showed up.
His croissant and coffee is there.
His croissant showed up.
He hasn't got here yet, but he'll
Boy, this is new stuff. Your shadow shows up before you do. But we'll introduce him when he gets here.
Yeah.
And, of course, we're here with Willie H., who does the live streaming of the program. Welcome, Willie.
Welcome, everybody, to Living for the People with L. Nathan here. We're back to normal again. So you see our, basic font and everything. We on live radio. We on live on WBNY Facebook. And we want you to call in, 716-878-5104. That's 718-878-5104.
And I really want to get members of the public's thoughts about this subject, because to me, we're on the cusp of a trend or a movement in this country that threatens the very existence of the American democracy that we claim that we are. And when I say that, I want to describe what I mean by what I think we are saying when we talk.
Is that threat?
Right. And what is the American democracy?
Right. Okay.
Because pure democracy is, if there's 11 of us in the room, 6 of us vote one way,
right.
5 vote another way, the 6 win,
right.
period.
Right.
And there's no ifs, ands, and buts. Well, the problem with that is if you're in the minority, you could be oppressed by the majority. So there's nothing in a democracy, there's nothing that you can do about that reality except that you can establish by constitution, you can establish things that are your rights, privileges and immunities that you have as a citizen of the United States that cannot be taken away even by a majority vote of the citizens in this country. That means that if it's 11 people in the voting public, and you've got 6 people that feel like they have the right to take away your microwave and give it to people in the 6 people's party,
right? You
would say that you can't do that, right? Well, the Fifth Amendment that protects you from unlawful search and seizure prevents you from even voting to take away the microwaves that are in the minorities' households.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
If you didn't have that, you would have complete chaos. Look what goes on in Afghanistan now that the Americans have left, right? They're walking into people's houses, taking away stuff, telling people you can't come out of the house if you're a woman. You can't come out of the house unless your grandfather, is with you. You can't drive. You can't go to school after the 6th grade. All these kinds of things that are oppressing minority or people that have minority power in Afghanistan. That's being done in places all over the world.
Right.
But in America, we have had, or we believe that we have had, an American democracy, which is what we call a American Democratic Republic.
Mm-hmm.
As a democratic republic, on the one end, you don't vote directly for the president of the United States. You vote for electors who are members of the delegate electoral college,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the electoral college delegates who vote for the president of the United States on your behalf. That's the republic part of our democracy. But the democracy part of it is it's still the majority of those votes carries the day as to who gets to be president, who's not the president.
Right.
Well, in the same sense, in this American democracy, you have rules, you have rights, you have immunities that are guaranteed to you, or at least we have believed that these things have been guaranteed to us: the right to free speech, the right to practice whatever religion you want to practice, the right not to have the state become the author or the sponsor of a state religion, the right to assemble, the right to not have people break into your house and steal your stuff, and say that we just need it, for the militia, and so on. Or you didn't know Americans did that, right?
Well, I know now. I know now.
Yeah. During the American, Revolution, folks didn't have food and provisions. They saw your farm. Oh, there's a building right there. Let's go look in there and see what they got.
Well, the scary thing now is that on both sides, whether it's black or white Americans, it's like everybody's gearing up to fight. To weapons, buying bullets, training to use them.
Exactly. Yep. William, you're hitting it right on the head. What is going to happen? What is happening now is people are starting to muscle up.
Yeah.
And they're muscling up because the confidence that they have had historically that the privileges, rights, and immunities that are guaranteed to you under the Constitution really are not guaranteed. That there are people who become to organize themselves. There's something called the American Legislative Exchange, Council. It's one of these conservative Republican type, think tank entities, and they spend all day, every day, trying to think of ways to augur power to the conservatives and the Republicans, and to take that power away from progressives and Democrats. That's what they're doing all of the time. And because people are starting to feel it, people are beginning to muscle up to defend themselves from the lost privileges, immunities, and rights that they perceive are occurring in the United States right now.
Mm-hmm.
Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. I titled this section of today's discussion, "The Unchecked Power of the Majority." What happens when the majority uses its majority of voting ability to oppress the minority, to take things away from the minority? What happens when this occurs? Now, you see what happens when Republicans are the minority in this country, but we managed to elect Donald Trump, by, I don't know, was it an accident? However it happened, we elected Donald Trump in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
As a consequence of electing Donald Trump, we released all of these reactionary, let's go back to the 1950s type of people in the governance of the society.
Mm-hmm.
And they began to do things to force everybody to behave the way they wanted people to behave,
Mm-hmm.
for everybody to do what they wanted to be done, and so on. As a consequence, there was reaction from the progressives, and they began to move to get their voters to the fore. And in 2022, we saw that 2018, we saw an electoral blowback against the Trump administration, which continued in 2020 and 2022, where Democrats have moved back into power, defending themselves from the Republican use of our democratic processes to oppress the people that they consider to be Democrats or liberals, or progressives. The point that I'm trying to get to here is, if we are not careful, allowing people to use their majority in certain situations. So you may not be the majority in this country, but you might be the majority in Erie County.
Mm-hmm.
And if you use your power as the majority of Erie County to change the election laws so that only your voters can vote and people who don't vote like you, their ability to vote is minimized. If you do that, there should be some reaction. There should be some response by the courts. The people should find a way to have the people's will respected. But we're not there yet. We're talking like we're there, but we're not actually there yet. We just got Norm MacArthur just showed up, so now we have our citizen, our in-studio audience of one is in place. I see his cup hasn't moved though, so I don't know what's going on. He oh, there he is. Now he's in the chair. He's there now. The headphones are on and he can hear us talking. Okay. Welcome back, Norm.
Thank you, Mr. Hare. Sorry for being late, sir.
That's all right. We talk about you when you're not here. but we do tell you that we talked about you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And so, Norm, what we're talking about is what I believe is to me, it's a concern. It's more than a concern. It's a fundamental threat to the way that we live in an American, what I have perceived in my lifetime to be the American democracy. I think that the American democracy is under extreme threat right now. And if we don't respond to it like it's a threat, we're going to lose the American democracy. And for us, well, for people like me, not for everybody, but for people like me, this is we have a resume of what happens when you don't respond to this erosion of democracy.
Yes, sir.
People like me have lived under an America where there was no democracy for me. And I'm not talking about slavery. I know we always go back to slavery. We don't have to go back that far, okay?
Yeah.
I remember, being in a town or driving past a town in Idaho where they had a sign up that said that Black people must get out of town by sundown in America. I've lived where in places in Alabama where there were signs up that said that only white people could drink from this fountain and Black people had to drink from the rusted out, crummied up fountain, over on the side. You couldn't go to the bathroom, couldn't go to the front of a store or a restaurant to get service. They had to go to the back door of the restaurant. I've lived under the oppression in a so-called American democracy where the majority were able to use their majority vote to oppress people in America and deny rights that are actually written into the Constitution that they're guaranteed to me, but they weren't guaranteed to me. That's the reality. The rights were not guaranteed to me, proven to me by the fact that they were taking my rights away from me day in and day out, over and over and over again, everywhere in the country, not just in the South. Stop playing that game about, in the South. This was being done all over the place. The Black codes were not originated in the South. The Black codes were originated in Illinois or Indiana, one of those two states. So it's important that we understand that that's the precipice that we're on. I'm not saying that we're going to go back to a specifically race oppression, kind of a situation, but we are in a political oppression situation.
Sir. Yes, sir.
We're in a situation where Republicans are saying if we don't win the election by definition was fraudulent.
Yeah.
Even if we win the election, if we don't win by a lot, that means the election was fraudulent. Donald Trump actually said, I'm trying to remember which phone call this was, but Donald Trump actually said I think it was to Mark Meadows, he said that I think he was talking to Raffensperger, the Secretary of State in Georgia.
Yeah.
He said that we won this election. We won by a lot. In fact, we won by a lot everywhere. We won in every single jurisdiction in the United States.
Oh.
Now, even the most stupid people know you don't ever win by every district. Even George McGovern didn't lose everywhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's what was being done. But what what Donald Trump said, and what he is essentially saying was his policy, is if we win, it's legitimate, and if we don't win, it's illegitimate. That is now becoming the bird song all across the country. Let me bring this locally for you, okay? And let's see if you all agree. And I would really love for folks in the audience to chime in on this. I went to an article. This was written. It's the editorial by the editorial board of the Buffalo News. It says when losers demand to be named winners. This was August 31, just a day or so ago, right? Yes, a day ago. I don't know if you all are familiar with Ralph Lorigo. He's the chairperson of the Erie County Republican Party. But the article goes like this. Here we go again. The losing party in a recent election claims the result was wrong and wants a judge to declare its candidate the actual, let's call it, the non-fake winner of the election. The chairperson of the Republican Party says that the election in this district, the outcome was wrong because his candidate didn't win. You know, this is their primary. His candidate didn't win. And because his candidate didn't win, that meant that the election was wrong. So he wanted the election to be set aside.
Right.
Right? It says it says, is this the state of American democracy that losing an election means it was in some way stolen or swindled or otherwise poached? Is it becoming no longer possible to just lose? That, of course, is the false but disturbingly common view of many Republicans as it applies to Donald Trump's actual documented loss in 2020. And now it's devolving into local politics. With the Erie County Conservative Party, I'm sorry, I blame this on the Republican Party. This was the Erie County Conservative Party. Make sure we correct that. Not the Republican Party, the Erie County Conservative Party is asking a judge to reverse the results of this June's primary election in the town of Evans, in their Evans supervisor race.
Mr. Hare, let me just ask, does it really even make a difference anymore? See, at this point where we are, it seems as if when Trump lost the election, that I guess you could say a precedent was set. Mm-hmm. And by that being fact and point, it seems like everybody's going to try this now. I mean, you know, to hold up an election or to try to put it on hold so that it can be changed
you
later.
Come up with some procedural reason why something should be held up, or
just giving them time to come up with something. To
come up with a new schema.
Oh my gosh, Mr. Hare.
Here's what happened in this conservative primary for the town of Evans. So you got the Democratic Party, Republican Party, you got the Conservative Party.
Yes, sir.
And then in the general election, the representatives of each of those parties would run, and hopefully the majority vote getter would win. In this case, in Evans, just before the primary, like 90 days or so before the primary, some of the citizens in Evans who were Republicans changed their registration from being registered Republicans to being registered conservatives because they wanted to vote in the conservative primary. And you can only vote in the conservative primary if you were a registered conservative.
Yeah.
That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So, but Ralph Lorigo, who is the chair of the Conservative Party, says that 69 people who used to be Republicans re-registered 3 or 4 months earlier as conservatives, and they voted in the primary, and they voted for the person that Ralph Lorigo didn't want to be the town supervisor.
Okay, let me just ask this real quick. Mr. Hare, Evans couldn't be that small, where 69 votes.
Evans is that small.
It's that small that these 69 affected
Right. That's 60.
the outcome.
Those 69 voters meant that the margin of victory for whoever wound up winning the primary in Evans, that person won by less than 70 votes.
Wow. Okay.
Because in the real American democracy, not the democracy that you all get when you're watching TV, you know, with Happy Days and nonsense, you're only looking at sort of national scheme of things.
Yeah.
But most democracy that we don't pay attention to takes place on the ground. At the ground level, it's town supervisors, it's dog catcher, you know, it's county clerks, it's town supervisors. You know, these are races where you may only have 500 people voting for in the entire race.
Yeah.
So democracy is really tactile, right?
Exactly.
It's really hands-on.
Yeah.
If we don't understand what's happening here, the things that Donald Trump has set in motion in this country nationally are infecting what is happening at state levels, at county levels, at city levels, and now we see in Evans at a village level.
So at this point where we are right now, we got to shoot the dog. We got to get him out.
Now we're talking.
Right now.
Now we're talking.
We're at a point.
Tell them who the dog is.
We know Mr. Trump. Mr. Trump is the dog.
Now remember the parable, right? You trying to move along, and all of a sudden you find there's some dogs across the street. You know, 5 or 6 of them, and they're rah, 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 you know, saying they're coming to get you, right?
Yeah.
But there's one dog that's not across the street. That dog is right near your rear end. Got his mouth open,
right at the
about
house.
to clamp on your keisters. That's polite, isn't it, Will?
Yeah, that is.
That flies, Will.
Okay. About to bite on your keisters. Now, which dog are you going to deal with first?
The one that's trying to bite you.
Close-knit
And
dog.
I'm not only going to deal with that dog, I'm going to shoot that dog 12 times.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm going to empty my gun in that dog.
I don't know if I'm going to hit. I might kick him in the
I'm
face.
telling you, you will not be able to
See,
recognize
that's the
that.
difference between me and you.
That's
you,
right.
You want to totally destroy.
That's
I'm
right.
Like, I kick him. Give him a chance.
In fact, I want the other dogs across the street to say, maybe we shouldn't mess with him.
You know what? I think you got the right effective method.
Let him take notice. Let him take notice.
Yeah, that'll back him up, you know.
See, you always think ahead. That's the problem with me. I don't think ahead.
See, and it's really important that we understand the dog that's got its teeth near our keisters is the dog that says that when you elect somebody, if it's not the person that the people in power want to be the next elected leader, that the people who have the majority in your legislative body can use that majority to deny your vote, to deny your actual ability to exercise your vote. This chairperson of the Conservative Party in Erie County wants to take away the votes of the 69 people who used to be Republicans, re-registered as conservatives, voted in the Conservative Party. He wants their votes taken away from them, or he wants the election set aside because he said it was unfair. They're not really conservatives. You know, they're really Republicans. If they were real conservatives, they would have voted for my guy. That's what's going on right now, right? This is exactly what Donald Trump said.
But let me ask this, Mr. Case in point. They switched. They were actual Republicans, and
right?
They switched to be conservatives. This is kind of the same thing in reverse. Pretty much. You know, they're actually they are actually really Republicans, just in sheep's clothing.
They're Republican. Listen, this is a tactic that has been done by political parties since the beginning of the Republic. If you feel like you need 500 votes in the town of Silver Creek in order to win town supervisor I'm making this up, you know, to become town supervisor in Silver Creek, but you have 750 people who vote like you, who are of your party. Let's say you're a Democrat.
Yeah.
You have 750 Democratic votes. and let's say there's only 500 Republican votes. So you know that if you get 501 of your Democrats to vote, you can outvote the people in the Republican Party if those people moved over to the Republican Party.
Right.
So that's what people have been doing for decades, since the beginning of the country.
Yeah.
They manipulate the process, but it's legal because you are casting your vote. There's nothing illegal about you voting for somebody you don't like.
Well, as I say, when it boils down to it, I understand the tactic, but I think that I don't know when the switch occurred, when they made the switch. I think is there a time limit on when you can do this? Because
right, whenever you go through there's a registration time period in every part of the country, everywhere. There's a time period when you can change your party registration from wherever you are to whatever you want to be. That was done in this case. They did this 3 months before the primary.
Yeah.
So they didn't do anything illegal, right? And they chose to re-register as conservatives. So they lost their ability to vote in the Republican Party, and they gained the ability to vote in the Conservative Party. That's fair. You can do that,
Yeah.
right? Now they became members of the Conservative Party, but they voted for the Republican in the primary.
Let me ask this: is there a Democratic running in this election?
In that particular election, there's a Democrat running.
Okay, so the next vote, when they have the next vote, all of these so-called Republicans that have changed to conservatism are now they're conservatives, but they're voting the.
No, don't get it overcomplicated. The primary is where your party nominates somebody for an office. So in the Conservative Party, they had a primary to elect a nominee. We got a couple minutes in the segment to elect a nominee for the Conservative Party. The Republican Party elected a nominee. The Democrats elected a nominee. Once that's done, now you have the nominees for each party that are going to run in the general election that will take place in November of this year. So in the general election, it wouldn't matter what party you were registered for. You're not voting in a primary, you're voting in the general election. Everybody can vote in the general election. So you could still wind up with the Democrat defeating the Republican and the Conservative in the general election.
The voters that voted conservative, will they be able to switch back to Republican if they wanted to?
They can the next time period when that can be done. So I don't know if they can do that now. I'd have to read the rules. But whenever the next period is where you can change your registration, they can change their registration to whatever they want. What my point here is these people cast legal votes. They re-registered legally to the Conservative Party. They voted legally in the Conservative Party primary. And Ralph Larigo wants their votes to be set aside as if they didn't vote at all, which would then allow his candidate to win in that election. And if their votes are not set aside by the court, he wants the court to invalidate the election entirely, right? This is the problem that we have going on. It means that they're taking the systems of democracy and using the systems of democracy to destroy democracy.
Yeah.
This is what we have to resist.
Yeah, I got you.
We have to fight this. If you don't fight this now,
Right.
when this dog has its teeth right next to your rear end, if you don't kill that dog right now,
Right.
you won't get a chance to fight the dogs that are across the street because you won't have any keisters to fight from.
Right. They coming after you strong.
They are not
hard.
playing. They are all in.
Yeah.
So in the next segment, I know took a little bit longer on this, but I want us to talk about the fact that the Republicans are using democratic process, the processes of democracy. When you elect a prosecutor, you know, in many parts of the country, you have elected district attorneys, right, or prosecutors. if you elect a prosecutor and the Republicans don't like your prosecutor because they don't like their policy preferences, what they're doing is they're actually voting to take away the powers of a governor, to take away the powers of a prosecutor. In fact, in Fannie Willis's case, she's the district attorney in Fulton County in Georgia. They created a law that allows them to be able to take away the funding of her office, and another law that allows them to actually take away her office, to wipe her office out entirely. That's how they'll defeat her, in the prosecution of Donald Trump. They'll just wipe her job out, entirely.
Can they do anything with Ron DeSantis? Can they wipe him out?
They like him. They like him. So listen, you all hear the music playing. I need to hear from you all in the audience. If you don't react to what's going on, this will become our lived reality in this country. It's really important that we stay engaged and that we understand what is happening to us and we resist. If you don't resist, what you fail to resist will become your new reality.
Yeah.
So please stay tuned. We'll see you on the side of the break here at Living for the People at 91.3 FM WBNY. That number again is 716-878-5104. That's 716-878-5104. See you on the side of the break.
One day, I'll teach chemistry to kids.
I'm going to be an architect.
My dream is to be a chef.
This is a world of possibilities. A world in which people who put their minds to something can really make a difference.
My goal is to help the environment.
Someday I'll find a cure for cancer.
At the U.S. Department of Education's Office of Federal Student Aid, we believe that aspiring minds can achieve anything. So we dedicate ourselves to making sure everyone has an opportunity to go to college. Each year, we provide more than $150 billion in grants, loans, and work-study funds, making higher education possible for anyone at any stage of life.
I can go back to college.
I can change careers.
I can make a difference.
Federal Student Aid, proud sponsor of the American Mind. Learn more about money for college at studentaid.gov.
Ready for radio that's challenging, innovative, and encouraging? Tune in, Living for the People.
This is L. Nathan Hare. Join me right here, 91.3 FM WBNY. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 9 a.m. after Amy Goodman's Democracy Now! We'll provide objective analysis regarding current issues. Call 878-5104. It's Living for the People on 91.3 FM WBNY. All right, welcome back to Living for the People. This is L. Nathan here, your host here for the balance of this hour. We're here with Norma Carter, who is the in-studio audience of one. Welcome back, Norm.
Thank you, Mr. Hare.
And of course, we're here with Willie H., who is our IT person, our 21st century representative, who has all of the skills necessary to be able to mount the live streaming and other technical support for this program. Welcome, Willie.
Welcome, everybody, to Living for the People with L. Nathan here.
There is something in our system of government called supremacy clauses. Supremacy clauses mean that you have the federal government, and whatever laws that are passed by the federal government binds the states. The states have to abide by the laws that are passed by the federal government. Now, the Supreme Court can prevent the federal government from enacting a provision in the law or exercising their powers if the Supreme Court feels that exercise is unconstitutional. It's taking authority in areas that are not reserved for the federal government, that are reserved for the states. Well, in the same way, state governments have supremacy over city governments, over town governments, over village governments, and so on, right? So a city might decide, well, you know what? We got just too many people, they're sitting in our jails, waiting on a trial, that were here for public drunkenness, that were here for loitering, that were here for talking too loud, and smoking marijuana on the stoop. You remember that? No, never mind. No, you don't. No, you don't.
Don't do it, Mr. Hare.
but light level crimes that were not damaging to everybody and
Yes,
whatnot,
sir,
right?
yes, sir.
And so the cities would then pass ordinances, right, policies that would say we're no longer gonna require people to post cash bail for those kind of crimes, because the people that can't afford to pay those bails just wind up sitting in our prisons for 3, 4, 6, 8, sometimes 12, 13, 14 months before their case comes to trial. And we just can't afford to keep housing people for such a low-level thing. You weren't going to sentence them for a year in jail in the first place. They were there for public drunkenness. You weren't going to send somebody to jail for a year for that. So having somebody sitting in jail for 3 months, 8 months, 14 months makes no sense for something like, littering, or something like public drunkenness and so on, right? But you could have state-level people who form the body of, say, the Republican Party, and they become the majority votes in your state assembly and your state senate. They could pass a law that says, I don't care what the city said. I want those people in jail until they can post bond.
Mr. Here, that's how come it's so important to vote, to get out and vote, because at our state legislator level, we want to be the majority.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's very important.
Right. So the reality is though the supremacy clause is being used right now, where people have a cabal of power at a certain level, and I'm saying now at the state level.
Yes, sir.
They're using that power to pass a law to take away an authority that the city had.
Okay.
The city had the ability to pass ordinances that would determine who would have to be kept overnight or for some period of time until their case came up for trial, and who didn't have to do that.
We can't overcrowd our jail.
Right.
Certain things aren't as important.
So that's a policy in that city. It might not be the same policy in every city. It's the policy in your city.
Right.
But you could have people in the state legislature who don't like that. They want to see those people in jail. So they pass a law. They pass a law overstepping your authority as a city. They pass a state law over you. This is a process they refer to in the law as preemption. They are preempting your ability to set policy or set standards or set law at a certain level by passing a law at a state level, at a higher level, that trumps whatever law you have at your lower level.
Yeah.
That's what's going on right now, right? So now we have situations where prosecutors, I'm sure you all remember in the last 2 or 3 years, it had become like one of the mantras, of the Republican parties. We're here for reforming criminal justice. We don't want to see so many people, locked up in jail. We're for bail reform.
Yeah.
We're for marijuana reform. We're for this and we're for that. That was the mantra coming out of the mouths of the Republicans here.
Yeah.
Right? Until they saw another way out. You had the evangelical Christians, with the swords and the Crusader crosses and whatnot, on their chests. You had them coming out and saying, no, we don't like that. We don't want people were smoking marijuana on their stoop. I want them in jail. If they were publicly drunk, I want them in jail. If they were swearing too loud, I want them in jail, and so on. And those people, right, they're the cabal,
baby.
Right? So the Republicans say that there's a lot of those people and we want their votes. So they changed their mind. So you had reform-minded district prosecutors who said, we don't need to have all these people locked up for such spurious, kinds of reasons.
Right.
And state legislatures are actually taking the power of of elected prosecutors, taking their power away. So you become an elected officer, but you have no power as the elected officer because all your powers have been taken away by the state and given to some state committees. The state committees are unelected people. This is, like Ron DeSantis, your cousin you were talking about a minute ago.
Whose cousin,
right?
Mr.
He's
Hill?
your cousin now, today. He's your cousin today. Every day you get new cousins. Right? And today, Ron DeSantis decided that I think it's called the New College in Florida, one of the progressive colleges, that a state college, in Florida. But Ron DeSantis didn't like, their progressive policies. They entertain, people being homosexuals and being open about it, on campus. And,
yes, sir.
People saying that there was actually something called Black History. I guess Ron doesn't think there was.
He doesn't agree.
Anything. I never heard of that before. And that sort of stuff. So he then had the board of New College had that board resign, and he appointed his people onto the board of that college, and then began to change all of their policies so that you can only talk about what he says you can talk about. You can't talk about what he claimed was critical race theory.
Yeah.
Critical race theory. How does teaching slavery have anything to do with critical race theory? Either slavery occurred or it didn't occur.
Hey, Mr. Hare, I am, and this is my opinion, Ron DeSantis is a very, very dangerous man. And the way that, the thing that's really, really bothered me even more so than how dangerous he is the way that he's being embraced and how his ideas are being
being normalized.
No, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not just that his ideas are being accepted; they're being normalized.
It's and it's a dangerous thing. Now, I'm sorry, Will, but I'm just saying, once other, let's just say other states, if they start adapting and agreeing and then voting in some of his ideas, man, this country is it's going to really, really be terrible. So there's two things that we have to do is we got to get Trump out and something got to happen with DeSantis.
Well,
I'm sorry.
What really makes DeSantis, because he's considered people of color or the other, not by him and his peers, but by other, he's considered us, people of color. So that's really dangerous because then you got other people of color teaming with him or more on the Republican and conservative party. So that is extremely he's really more dangerous than Trump.
Yeah, the blacks that are the so-called blacks for Trumps or blacks for DeSantis, these are people that are suffering from Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah.
Because you can't be that dumb by accident. You have to be that dumb on purpose.
Oh my gosh!
There has to be something insidious that is the reason why you.
I understand Santos because he can go for a pass. That pass card, he can pass as white. So he's probably lived that privileged life. His family probably lived that privileged life.
You don't think DeSantis is white?
Well,
don't get these names. Don't get these names confused.
I got you. Okay.
People all over. I mean, my name is Hare, right? What's African about hair?
Right.
Nothing. You know, it's just a name.
Right.
Right. So, but the core that I'm trying to get us to see, and to focus in on, is these people are using democracy itself as the venue or the vehicle to destroy American democracy.
I got you.
I'm not saying that everything that America does or has done is good and righteous. This has been an unrighteous country from its existence. It was founded on the basis of theft, murder, rape, exploitation, vile. That's the nature of how it began.
Yeah.
And the people who developed the governance of the society, we really were developing a system for how thieves and crooks and murderers could get along with each other without killing each other. So they developed a system to enable them to be able to do that. All that being said, we are in the country that we're in right now. Mm-hmm. The country that we're in right now, with all its warts, all its faults, all its bruises and scars, the country that we're in right now, to my mind, is the easiest of any country on earth to live in and get along in. We have unfairness in many places, in many ways in this country.
Mm-hmm.
But by and large, this is the easiest place on earth to get along.
Well, Mr. Hare, I'm in agreement with that 100%. But at the same time, we're living in a time where this whole concept of us being able to get along well and do well in this country is kind of being challenged.
We are losing it.
Yeah, well, we're losing it, but I'm saying, but we still have time.
We have time, but I'm telling you,
to change it.
That clock, that was ticking that you could barely hear it, like the Timex watch, you couldn't hear it. Well, now that clock is right next to your ear,
right.
And it is the primary sound you're hearing.
Well, we are losing time because even like you was talking about the dogs, you got one dog about to bite your booty, and then you got other dogs coming over. Okay. We got climate change. We got so much.
Well, let me just add this.
See how he stuck booty in there?
Hey, I like to add this though, Mr. to what we're speaking on right here. Our first and most important thing that we have to do is to defeat Trump. Now, once we do that, then I think that the scales it'll be even, because we got to get him out of here because he's rallying.
I agree with you strategically, but tactically, to make that strategy work, tactically, we have to become much more aggressive in making American people understand what is at stake right now.
Right.
I don't think Americans understand. They're walking around here pulling on their pants and, painting orange colors in their hair and, they're off on all kind of strange trips and whatnot. Yeah. And they are missing the boat.
Right. Mr. Hare, what we discussed the other day in the car, going home, what I actually posed to you about, I don't know, we've got to make...
We got to make America great again?
No. No, I was talking to Mr. Hare about trying to make his format bigger. We need either you to be far bigger so people could hear this because they don't hear it everywhere, or people similar, and I don't know if anybody's similar to you, Mr. Hare. But step up.
We can work on that and expanding the reach of the program. That's what you're talking about.
That's first and foremost. Mm-hmm. But people don't understand where we are. Most people don't understand the climate. They don't understand exactly what's going on in our country.
That's what's most important to me.
It's very important.
I see people, they're worried about, the length of people's pants and length of their skirts,
stuff,
and all those things may be meaningful.
And even inflation, they talk about that, but it's not. Right. Even that's just something they pushing out to keep them.
And we have serious issues. We probably have another 70,000 people in Afghanistan that we abandoned, 2 years ago that need to find their way out of Afghanistan. Yeah. There are serious issues that are out here. I'm not trying to belittle any of that.
Right.
I'm trying to get us to understand the reason why we've not been able to get people out of Afghanistan, couldn't get their visas, approved and get processes for their being able to immigrate into the United States to happen is because the Republicans are the ones who resisted it. Chuck Grassley is actually blocking legislation that has been passed by both the House and the Senate that would have made it easier for these Afghani people to be able to emigrate to the United States. The Republicans are the ones blocking that legislation, but your media doesn't tell you that. Your media acts like, Chuck Grassley is an eminent, emeritus, of the American Congress, without telling you that Chuck Grassley is the reason why prescription drug benefits did not get passed until a few years ago. Wow. He's the reason why you have not been able to get negotiation with the big pharma on the prices of these drugs that are charging you $30,000 a pill, and so on.
It's really
right.
It's really,
he's
really
the
crazy.
one. Not just him personally. Him and his party are the ones that have been doing that. Yeah. You don't hear that day to day in the news. People don't even know what you're talking about. Is that true? I never heard that before. But you heard that Joe Biden is 81 years old. And, he shouldn't be president of the United States because he's too old.
And that's what you hear more of.
But it's something that doesn't even matter when you view the positive things that Trump has gotten.
And they're constantly putting Ron DeSantis in front of you as the next guy up. You know, if Trump doesn't make it, it's going to be Ron DeSantis, as if that's the only alternative to the country, or even that Ron DeSantis is any alternative. In my view, he's not an alternative, period.
Well, he's not for us, but for them, yeah, he's a strong alternative. He is a strong Republican.
Right. That's what the Republicans are saying. That's what the media is saying.
Let me ask this. Other than DeSantis, is there anyone else that may hold water in the next election?
Wait, against Trump, you mean? Against Trump, right?
I'm saying that maybe could defeat Trump. Is there
anyone
else?
There are people like Chris Murphy. You know, I
haven't heard that name
because he's a senator, right? You know, and senators don't have the same profile, you know, that governors have.
What about the New Jersey guy?
Christie should be. His citizenship should be suspended.
Yeah, but I like Christie better than
he used his power to close the Brooklyn Bridge, right, and had traffic backed up for 7 or 8 miles in each direction.
That's a mistake. That's a decision.
That wasn't a mistake. He did that on purpose to punish the.
But I still like Christie better than
Democrats.
Other choices.
Well, I don't even want to get into all of that. That's a separate issue. My point is, there's all of those issues that exist within democracy.
Right.
The issue that you have to be most concerned about are the issues where they're trying to prevent democracy itself from occurring.
Yes.
That's the issue that's in front of us.
Issue at hand.
Not whether or not you're for Ron DeSantis or for closing bridges or abusing your power, you know, and this and that. Those are issues that you should be making decisions about whether or not you want to support that person or another person for an office. But the actual tactics, the movement that is going on in this country right now, the federal system in this country does not provide any protection for cities. If cities want to change, for example, you have sanctuary cities in this country right now, right? Several decades ago, cities like San Francisco and New York City, you know, places like that, they made themselves what they call sanctuary cities. If you were coming from another country and you're fleeing oppression in another country, to give you a space that you could come where people would welcome you, would help you to get yourself, you know, on your feet in a new country, they chose to make their cities places that supported that. That was fine when they had less population.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But now that they got a lot more population, fewer spaces to put new people in.
Yeah, that's true.
Now people are saying, why you got all of these foreign people trying to relocate?
We do have a lot of foreigners.
I watched a documentary where San Francisco is kind of like overloaded. You already know New York is.
Mm-hmm.
What I see, or what I could see happening is, if we get the people coming in, there could be some type of a system to take a percentage and send them here, because we are a country that brings people in and accepts people.
Well, not only that, it is the law. It's not a policy. It's the law of the country. Mm-hmm. Our country bound itself by international treaty that anyone who is fleeing oppression in another country, who's on the run to get away from being murdered by the people that have taken control of their country, has a right to apply for asylum in the United States, and that we have the responsibility to care for those people until their asylum hearing is completed.
Let me just speak on this.
And we do a pretty good job, I think. I really do.
I respect that 100%, but just like we spoke, I don't know, 6 months ago maybe, if you got a whole bunch of people, say you are, and we spoke on this, you are taking care of your own children, and then you have an influx of children that come into your home, and you got an extra 3 children on top of your 2. Mm-hmm. It takes away from you as the way that you raise your children. So what I'm suggesting is to just kind of funnel some here, some here, some here, and it gives everybody part of the burden in taking care of these.
But that's not a decision that you can make as a city at a city level.
Okay.
That's a decision that has to be made at a national level.
Mm-hmm.
You, by your city in San Francisco, can't make a decision that we're going to send 1,500 people to Buffalo.
Wow.
You can't do that. The federal government can do that. You can't do that on your own.
So when they come into these sanctuary cities, like New York or San Francisco, they'll just, in most cases, just be overloaded.
Yeah.
Well, then we have a problem with implementing our own policy. But who has the responsibility of effecting new policy in that circumstance? It has to be policy set at the federal level because that's a federal level of authority. Your city does not have the authority to set policy in another city. The federal government has the authority to set policy in another city. Even the state government in New York could set policy about things that are taking place inside New York. So Governor Kathy Hochul could say, well, we're going to limit any new immigrants coming into New York City, and we're going to have 10% of the new immigrants go to Rochester, 10% are going to go to Syracuse, 5% are go to all, the very thing that you just said.
But let me say this too. Sanctuary cities, New York and San Francisco. One thing you got to understand too is because I think they're sanctuary cities, and let me know if I'm correct, they get more money. That means
you get money from the federal government or for your state if the state's sponsoring you.
So that means money is coming to certain people as well as the program. Not only that, jobs. I mean, one of the jobs that I have is because of refugees.
So you're right. Money comes, but here's what also comes.
Okay.
You've been walking around here, being semi-poor, semi-low income, walking around your community and whatnot, getting along with each other.
Right.
Then all of a sudden, there's 150, refugees from country X. They don't dress like you. They don't talk like you. They don't look like you.
Right.
And they don't poop like you. They don't do any of the things the way you do it. And they're now in your face.
Yeah.
And they're in housing that used to be housing that you were in.
Right.
Now you're not in that housing. They're in that housing.
Well,
and even some of them are getting jobs.
No. Not only getting jobs, they able to get businesses. Yesterday, I experienced that. We was in the bank, and it was
you can hear Willie's biases starting to come out now.
We was in the bank, and there's 3 black older men like my age. We waiting online. Meanwhile, you got these other. Everybody knows who they are. They're in the bank getting money, getting boatloads of money. When we go in the community, they got the businesses, they got the stores that we stupidly gave up, the property, whatever, and now they're thriving. Yeah. Meanwhile, we're waiting on the line like, can I get my little penny while they picking up
what this tells you?
$millions.
What this tells you is whoever has responsibility for helping immigrants to resettle in the United States, they have been more imaginative, more creative, and more aggressive in accomplishing their goals using the systems of the United States.
Absolutely.
You've been here since 300 years before 1776. You were already here.
Right.
You should have been able to do the same thing.
Right.
Even better.
Some of it's our fault.
But you weren't able. Well, a lot of it is. I mean, some of it is your fault.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is the people who had control over the processes of resettling. Remember, these people were being resettled when slavery fell in the United States in December of 1865. Slavery fell as a part of the Constitution. The 13th Amendment was passed and ratified. That meant no more slavery. When that occurred, you had 4.5 million formerly enslaved people that are now walking around the United States with no job, no house, no money, no bank accounts, no businesses, no anything. If the people in this country had honor, that had controlled this country, they would have put together a resettlement plan for those 4.5 million African people.
Right.
In all these years, since December of 1865, no resettlement plan has been mounted to deal with those African people that found themselves supposedly free in this country.
I agree.
People from all over the world, 13,000 miles away, can come to the United States and they get resettled in 14 to 15 hours. They're resettled.
Right.
You've been here for 300 years, 400 years, and you still haven't been resettled.
Right. I feel your pain, and I see it, Mr.
So now I say that, but even that statement that I just made, as powerful and as wrenching as it is for me, that is not the most important issue that is facing the United States right now.
I got you.
The most important issue facing the United States right now is the destruction of the American democracy. If you don't preserve the American democracy, resettlement of my ancestors or my descendants is never going to occur.
You know that's
you
right.
You gotta fix the American democracy, and you gotta fix it right now. This is not a someday, a tomorrow thing. This is a today thing, and we gotta get real. We gotta understand what's in front of us, and we gotta start playing like we mean it.
Right.
Like our life depends on it.
Yes, sir. 100%, sir.
100%. Yep.
That's the music. They're saying ugly stuff to us now. They meant move along. Okay. So thank you all for listening to us and supporting us. We look forward to talking to you all on Monday. Have a really great weekend. If I'm not mistaken, did the Buffalo Bills play on Saturday, or is that the next?
I think they did. I don't know, but somebody told me they don't look that good. That's what I.
No, I mean, but do they play?
Yes.
Not Saturday, Sunday. Did they play this Sunday, or is it a week from Sunday that they play?
It's either Saturday or Sunday, Mr. Hare. I'm not sure.
I'm thinking it's a week from Sunday. I think they played it.
This week?
Yeah, I don't think it's this Sunday.
No. They play a preseason game.
Right. No, they're done with preseason.
They already did the preseason.
Right, but they have a 2-week break. So I don't think this Sunday they play. I think it's next week Sunday. Whatever.
Okay, well it's not this Sunday then.
Go Bills.
Go Bills. Go Bills.
See you all on Monday here at Living for the People at 91.3 FM WBNY. See you all then.
All right.